who is in the project and what we are asking you in this open call. You already heard it now. We are recording this session. So if you don't feel comfortable having your face on the recording, you can, of course, stop sharing your screen. But it is intended for you and also for others who can't be here to be able to watch it back and listen it back afterwards, so that everybody has the same type of information. And the recording will also be shared online afterwards. The way we're going to do this is as follows. We hope to do this within the boundaries of an hour, maybe a bit more than an hour, and to have as much space as possible for Q&A for all of you. And the structure we're going to choose is the following. If you have any questions during the short presentations of the different partners of Hungry EcoCities, please put them in the chat. You can use the chat to put in any kinds of questions you have throughout regarding what is being said or otherwise. We have people also working on the chat, so answers may come directly. And some of them will come back plenary after we've done the introduction, and we will discuss them together. So I hope that's all okay, and I'm clearly audible. I think I am, because I'm seeing a lot of straight faces. Then I propose we start, and we start by giving the word to the coordinator of Hungry EcoCities, who is Pavel Smrs from Brno University of Technology. Pavel, please, the opening is yours.
Thank you. So let me also welcome everybody here in the session. And thanks Rodolfo, who is with Leah, the kind of main figure, and he will moderate the main figure in the proposal and the project, although he will introduce himself and the company he represents later. He will moderate the session and help us to go through the webinar. I don't know whether I should introduce everybody from the team, but they will have opportunity to introduce themselves. So I just want to wish everybody to get information needed for the participation. And I should say, as success, how we will measure success, Anka will mention it later on, but we would try to push everybody disconnected to at least start the applying for the current call today, and we will see, and you will learn that it's an easy process to provide information. You can start today and add information during the next day. So welcome everybody, and let's go through the presentation.
Thank you, Pavel. So first, we are going to do a very brief round introducing the partners in Hungry EcoCities to you. Most of them have their cameras on. We are all with a colory background, so that's how you can recognize us. After that, we're going to go through the setup of the residency shortly, the formalities of the open call, and of course the timeline and evaluation. Most of this information is also available in the different documents that we have uploaded, and that hopefully you found by now, or otherwise please do so afterwards. But it's always better to hear it firsthand and be able to ask questions. So let's go. Of course, as a starting point, Hungry EcoCities is a project focusing on the food system. So that means all of the residencies somehow will be linked to this topic in many different ways. Who is who? In the project, we have a combination of studios, universities, technical universities, bio-universities, and a few mentoring organizations. And I'm going to go through them one by one and briefly give the word to the representative of each partner who is here today. So starting off with Carlo Ratti Associatie, one of our 3 hosting studios in the project, Monica.
Thank you, Rodolfo, and welcome everyone. My name is Monica Löwe, and I'm a partner at Studio Carlo Ratti. We are a part of this research consortium as one of the creative studios. So where all the artists who will be successful will be working either with us or the other creative studios. Maybe just very briefly, also, if you probably read through the directions, but just to say also that what we are really keen in this research is looking into the city and farming synergies. So not only what can happen maybe outskirts of the city, but maybe also how can we bring food closer to people, whether it is through integrating smart systems into the buildings, or maybe it's also rethinking the food relations, for example, in the case of supermarket. So this is from our direction.
Thank you, Monica. And then we immediately go to the second hosting studio we have in our consortium, and who could be your hosting studio if you are a successful applicant. Studio Other Spaces, based in Berlin. We have with us Eva. Hi, Eva. Please unmute yourself. Yes.
Hi. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Hi, I am Eva Mikkelsen. I am the project manager of the Hungry EcoCities at Studio Other Spaces, or SOS, as we call ourselves by the initials. Together with Sebastian Behlmann, the co-founder of SOS, the selected residency artists will be in contact mainly with me and Sebastian. For the Hungry EcoCities project, SOS is also supported by State Studio, and together we have formed an assembly team, which is consisting of various studio members from SOS and State. And the assembly team has basically been selected with the purpose of focus on different topics, including research, text editing, and visual development, and to guide our knowledge hub through the full period of the project, and as well with the residency artists. At Studio Other Spaces, our general work focus or interest lies in spatial experimentation, and the same for the Hungry EcoCity projects. Our projects mainly concern the exploration on all different phases, looking at the overall perspective, but as well as into high detail levels. And we always have the approach to go site-specific, approaching different materialities through research and experimentation. At SOS, our work is collaborative at its core. This is also very important for us with the Hungry EcoCity projects, and we approach or hope that any artists that are engaging with us will have similar approach also in terms of diversity and inclusion, to form proposals that are thinking broader than just like maybe one certain direction that everyone can access what we're doing. And as stated in our booklet, we are focusing on local conditions. So we are hoping to engage more in terms of specific local solutions or local solutions. Specifically, we have been doing research in Berlin, but of course, depending where each artist is coming from, we are open to investigate at each individual location. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you, Eva. You already hear quite a lot of terms coming by. I hope they are familiar to most of you by now. Direction booklet is one of them. As you may have figured out, the way we set this call up is you're actually applying with a proposal to one of the directions that have been articulated and developed by one of the host studios. If there are any questions on that, please put them in the chat and come back to it later. For now, let's go to the third hosting studio and environment, which is a bit of a peculiar one compared to the other two, because actually this one has a dual role. It is both a creative hosting environment led by Stefan Peterman, but it's also a business network with a lot of access to companies, which is mostly led by Aart van den Bos, who's also with us today. But for now, I would like to give the word to Stefan.
Thanks, Rodolfo. Really great pleasure to be here. Indeed, my name is Stefan Peterman. I've worked with the architect Rem Koolhaas for the last 15 years, mainly on doing research for exhibitions and also forecasting futures for different topics, including food. I was involved in the Countryside to Future exhibition at the Guggenheim Museum in New York for a significant amount of years, and that also led to the creation of a foundation called Eat This, in which we try to reconnect culture and let's say art and design together with the innovative members of the food sector, and where we try to experiment with new forms and new ways of exchange. So this is a fantastic opportunity for us. In our direction booklet, as it is known, we focus basically on the issue of scale. Whether it's on a planetary scale, trying to investigate how can we better assess the production places of where actually the food production needs to take place, looking at the city by trying to really fundamentally grasp the scale of food production that is needed, and how do we allot that or insert that in the urban context to a real scale, so not just very cute and nice little roof gardens, but also significant scale. And thirdly, we are also interested in the connections between, let's say, high-tech farming, sometimes also called controlled environmental farming or growing, and very alternative practices and systems like regenerative farming, or just very, let's say, very differently organized forms of food production, and whether they can learn from each other or where we can add more exchange between them. So that's very briefly what we hope. Obviously, we're super excited also to introduce you with our networks and our own ideas. So yeah, we look forward to your proposals.
Thank you, Stefan. With that, you've had at least a first touch with the 3 studios. And that is also the first part of what we ask you to do when you're thinking about putting forward a proposal, is to put it into one of the 3 directions that you just heard coming by and are more explored in the directions booklet that we have made. The second part of the project residency is more on a technical layer, knowledge layer, technology layer. And for that, we also have 3 partners in the consortium. And also here, at least one of these 3 will be directly connected to your project if you become successful, as call it a technological knowledge mentor. The first one is the KU Leuven, but not, well, actually a large part of the KU Leuven, Leuven AI. And Leuven AI is an organization that supersedes many departments within KU Leuven that all deal with the topic of artificial intelligence. From KU Leuven, we have Robin de Kroon. Robin, the word is yours.
Thank you very much, Rodolfo. Indeed, as Rodolfo already explained, a specific institute is involved within this project. It's called Leuven AI Institute. And as you can see on the slide, we cover a lot of different topics and domains. But in this project, 4 research groups are involved. We'll also come back to this later on. But the main expertise that we can bring in this project is based on explainable AI, opening the black box, focus on VR, virtual reality, and augmented reality, mixed reality. We also have a research group involved with the sociality of AI, so all the social aspects involved when you use AI, especially on a work floor. And then finally, also on operations management, where AI is used. But we have very broad expertise. So we're also curious to see what kinds of ideas and innovations you will submit. So looking forward to potential collaborations as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Robin, for that. So a lot of AI knowledge and expertise in Leuven, which means that if in your proposal you refer to AI topics as technologies that you are inclined to investigate or use or explore, it is quite likely that you will be connected to KU Leuven in the project phase. On a different note, we have also Mendel University as one of our technical expert groups. They are much more focused on biotechnological topics. Pavel Shalupski from Mendel University is with us today. Pavel, the word is yours.
Yeah, thank you, Rodolfo. Well, our university is mainly focusing on molecular biotechnological tools which are or which might be applied in environmental technologies. Our main focus is on algae and plants. Well, we are studying different types of cultivation systems. We are also looking at some aspects that are underlying these technologies. We are recently experimenting with plant acoustics and spectra that can be measured to characterize the plants or growth. Plants or grow.
Oh, please, Ahmed, Hassi, please mute yourself. Oh, I can do it. Yeah, please go ahead, Pavel.
And we are also experimenting with UV analytics of foods and different types of products. So basically, yeah, all these tools can be combined or somehow utilized or addressed by digital technologies to improve them. And yeah, well, we are well prepared to provide support to, yeah, help you in with the project focusing these topics.
Great, thank you, Pavel. Later on, we will touch on this as again, but it also means that if your proposal is relevant for the topics of Mendel University, so you are thinking about using bioreactors or using plant acoustics or other topics, it could mean that you would be needing access to the labs at Mendel University and also some physical presence in their environment. But a little bit more on that later on. The third technological hub that we have in the consortium is the Brno University of Technology, located, I think this is not 3 kilometers from Mendel University. Also the same name of the lead researcher we have in our group. Pavel is not only the coordinator of Hungry EcoCities, but also the lead expert from Brno University of Technology. Pavel, can you say a few words about that?
Okay, so in addition to our role as a coordinator, we are the Brno University of Technology is the second largest university, and at the Faculty of Information Technology, we deal with many things that are related to, let's say, technical side of the development you would or could use in your projects and proposals and residencies. So we would offer particularly the IoT, Internet of Things, systems and agents, anything with the microprocessors and communication levels. We could help with that. We deal with virtual reality and aspects that are linked to the use of technologies for visualizing the things. And we would also support autonomous robotic systems and also using, let's say, drones and satellite technology to measure, to have direct communication and direct monitoring of the fields or agriculture sector in general.
Thank you, Pavel. So the second layer of the project will be you will be given access to these technologies and this expertise on the 3 universities. We expect you that in your proposal you already make as clear as possible, or at least give us a hint on which of these technology fields could be of interest in conducting the project and the experiment. But there will be between pre-selection and jury day, so basically for the finalists that we're going to select, a one-on-one meeting with the expected technical link as well as studio link to further clarify that before actually going into the project. So for now, please be as specific as you can in the proposal stage, knowingly, of course, that you can't be that specific because you're preparing a proposal that is bound to change later on. Then we have a third group of partners, if we can say, who are more from a supporting, coordinating role. The first one is a funding box. They will have to work later on quite more extensively. I guess you all know about them because they are the ones that are dealing with the open call the whole open call management preparations, they're the ones sending out the emails. It's their platform that you are expected to go, not only to get information, but also to do your application. But Funding Box is not only a tool for applications, it's actually quite a bit more. Anka, can you share a few words on what Funding Box does?
Sure. Thank you, Rodolfo. Thank you, everyone, for being here this morning. I'm Anka Marin. I'm with Funding Box together with my colleague Delia here. As Rodolfo says, we are the voices and the faces from behind the emails, the many emails that you may be receiving from now on regarding the open call. So we are here to assist with everything you may need regarding the application process, any questions you may have about the evaluation, and any other type of assistance. We can connect you with the relevant partners for more specific questions, and we will be emailing you and getting in contact with you every time there is an update or a new information or a new event you'd like to participate in to get more understanding of the process and of what we are expecting from your proposals. Thank you. We can talk more in the next slides.
Thank you, Anka. Just for everybody, as a reminder, if in this process at any time you have questions or you want to get some feedback from any of our partners, there are two ways to do that. There is a communication platform on the Funding Box platform, the call page. There you can just type any question you have. It will come in with Anka and the team at Funding Box, and they will either respond or share it with any of the partners who need to respond together. There's also a second option, and that is by direct mailing. We have a dedicated email address for this project called Hungry EcoCities at fundingbox.com. I think we can also put it in the chat. You also see it in the documents. You can also send your question per email there, and it will basically have the same route. It will enter the email inbox of Anka, and she will either respond or distribute among the partners who are fit to respond. Then, very briefly about ourselves, InfoArt, Pavel already said it in the introduction. We are basically a spider in the web in this whole project. We were instrumental in designing and writing the project together with Gluon, who is also here, and I'll give the word in a second. And we are an institute for art-driven experimentation innovation, precisely what this whole project is about. It is about art, it is about experimenting new things, but it's also about innovation. So we do really have to hope that whatever is going to come out of these experiments between artists, studios, technology experts, and maybe a wider set of experts could lead to practical innovations in the field of food later on. For that, we have a whole method. It's called PCTAPS. You shouldn't worry about it too much now, but in the projects, this is what we are going to add to each and every project as well. Then those were the fixed partners. We also have two involved partners who are very specifically involved, especially in the residencies. So if you're going to be selected and you're going to start your project, you will get in contact with any of them probably. The first one is Gluon, Art and Research from Brussels. As said before, they also played a big role in the preparation of the project, and they are specifically going to be involved with mentoring and supporting the artists that are going to be connected to Carlo Ratti Associati. Christophe is here today, the director of Gluon. Please, Christophe, a few words from you.
Thank you very much, Rodolfo. Yes, so Gluon is a Brussels-based platform for art, science, and technology. And we have lots of experience with the organization of residencies within the larger S+T+ARTS projects. And we're happy to support the artists. We know also about complexities of collaborative practices. We will mainly focus on a collaboration with Carlo Ratti Associati in Torino, and we will also take care of part of the outreach of this program, and we will, with all of you, looking at interesting opportunities internationally to present the results.
Thank you, Christophe. And the final one is called State Studio. It was already briefly mentioned by Eva. State Studio is a Berlin-based initiative, and they are going to be active in the residencies that take place at Studio Other Spaces in Berlin. So if you're going to be connected to that, you will be in touch with State Studio as well. Then just a few words on what is S+T+ARTS and what is Horizon Europe. S+T+ARTS, for those of you who do not know, is an initiative of the European Commission. It's been active since around 2016, quite some years now. And in all kinds of different ways, it deals with realizing these experimentation and innovation residencies. Sometimes directly between art and science, sometimes very much focused on art and technology, sometimes more on the field of art and industry, or a combination of the three. All of these things go through projects, and these projects are funded either by Horizon Europe or another direct program from one of the DGs of Europe. Hungry EcoCities is part of Horizon Europe, so the big research and innovation program of the European Commission, and you will not have too much worries about that, except for that you will see this name coming by on contracts and everything around that. So know that although you're responding to an individual call set by us through a cascading program, you're actually applying, if you're going to apply to this project, of becoming one of the projects, experiments within Horizon Europe. So if you're interested in that, there's plenty of things to find on that as well. Then, without further ado, let's go to a few words around how we foresee the residencies to be going. So this is about after selecting the 10 winning candidates. Monica, can I give the word to you for this?
Thanks, Rodolfo. If you go to the next slide, please. As we have talked a lot about technology, arts, and innovation, I think one of the key things to keep in mind that we have 9 months together. We are successfully selected, but we want to also dedicate some time to different tasks and topics throughout these 9 months. So what we are proposing is to structure the work into 3 phases roughly, and we have also indicated some time to it. And I think the key for it is to make sure that we don't maybe over dedicate time to certain phases and therefore find out that at the end we need to rush a bit. And we know it's a typical of innovation that there are so many ideas and so many things that we could be doing that I feel like having this structure from the start is a good thing to keep it in mind. So the first phase, what we would like to dedicate probably let's say the end of 2023 would be about discovery. So all the successful artists, they will be with their creative studios, also their hubs. And I think one of the key things to remember that also when you're doing your applications, that we do ask you to save or at least plan some time and money for travelings. So in the discovery phase, I think it's key to keep in mind that regardless of which creative studios you will be with, the kickoff at the creative studio will be in person. So you will be asked to travel to one of the 3 locations and probably have spend at least 2 days there. I think it's also a good moment to get to know your mentors and get to know everyone in person, and probably dedicate some time on how to plan the work ahead. Following the kickoff, of course, each of them artists can continue developing, and what we suggest not to maybe overburden each of you, but have maybe mentoring moments every 2 or 3 weeks throughout the months. That can be in person or via video conference, just to check where we're going. And the idea is not to check you as kind of a university modes, but more about give also our guidance to you, and maybe also our contacts to you, because we all come from let's say an expert network, and we do already have our local networks in place as well. So let's think of these guidings or these mentoring moments more about who could we reach out to together, or what could be the things that we can also research together. So the first 3 months, it will be dedicated to this sort of sharing knowledge, or this collaborative innovation, I would almost call it, and it will result in a overall, let's say, consortium-wide or artist-wide network event, which we are planning to have towards end of November, beginning of December. And it will be here in Turin in our offices. So we will be hosting all the selected artists, but also all the consortium members in an event to kind of talk about what we have discovered and what could be the potentials, and to see also what the others have been doing. If you go to the next slide, please. Of course, after discovery, we need to also narrow down. And the first step of narrowing down of what we call phase 2.1 was about developing. So taking the ideas which were developed in the end of 2023 and starting to work in a more kind of hands-on approach. We don't know what your proposal would be. So we imagine the hands-on approach can be both physical, but also digital. The idea would be to kind of design and produce lo-fi prototypes, but also perhaps double check with the market or also what is already feasible, or if there is some requirements for the technical equipment for the production, just to see if it's available, where it can be sourced, or who could we partner up with. That, of course, will involve a lot our technical partners, so all the universities. There is a possibility also to go to the universities to start testing and working together with them. And we don't know, of course, what your proposal would be, but we are imagining also that maybe some of you might want to field tested or ask even opinion from other stakeholders. So we will get ready for that. Again, the way that we are thinking of structuring it is about every 2-3 weeks to touch base, just to see if there is any help needed. We are here not to constrain you. We are here to help you, to mentor you, and to give you access to our networks, both for knowledge and the technical feasibility. And the last phase, so we're getting towards the end of this art residency, of course, is to get ready for demonstration. What we would like to have from this 9 months, of course, is to something that can be presented. Whatever the proposal might be, I think we do need to dedicate some time on refining. And maybe also on recording or looking into how can we best convey the idea or the message, or what worked, what didn't work, because as you know, innovation is not just about success. Sometimes it's also about the failures you learn throughout this process. And I think for us, it's equally important. Having said that, we hope with the 10 artists selected that we will all successfully get into at the end of May with new prototypes ready for new phases. Thank you. And the last slide, I forgot about this. We talked about that there was, of course, matchmaking between the artists and our technology partners and the studios. As you heard, there is 3 creative studios involved. Of course, like I said, we don't want to be restrictive in any possible way, but each of the studios do have their preferred way of working. And I'm, of course, as I said, I'm talking from Studio Colorado's point of view, and we believe that innovation is also about informal encounters. So when you would be applying to our studio, to our direction, to the vision, we would encourage people to meet in person as much as possible. Ideally, we encourage even people move to Turin, but I think that's very ambitious. We do believe that things cannot be just discussed over a video conference. Sometimes new ideas happen in moments maybe that are not dedicated for it. So when you are would be coming to our studio, not only that we encourage to be here as much as possible in person, we of course have also our kind of resources to give to you regarding workspace and our factory for testing as well. And the other studios, just as you read on the screen as well, they are more flexible on how they would like to work. it can be both online or in person. So just maybe keep it in mind as well when you're doing the kind of proposal and also maybe the budgeting. When would you like to be in the studio, or what you would really like to get from the studio? As I said, it's not just about kind of checking that if you stick with your timeline. It's about also creating new networks and new knowledge.
Thank you, Monica, for that. So that is what we have to say now about the residency structure. As you, I think, caught up from the words of Monica, we will have a structure, we will have some fixed moments, but we also plan for a lot of flexibility to, well, basically cater to each and every project in the way that is best seen fit. Well, where will all of this happen? It will happen within these 3 studios. And because of the time, we're going to go through this a bit faster now. I think a lot has been said already. But Calorate Associati in Torino is not just a lot of office space, but also a lot of workshops they have. There's a lot of possibilities to also do work in-house. In Studio Other Spaces in Berlin, I guess very similar. And there's a lot of knowledge creation going on, but also a lot of production and making going on within their facilities. So it could also be very inspiring to be physically there at certain moments in the residency. And the EDIS Stefan Peterman Rem Koolhaas combination is the most hybrid one of all. There are a lot of places in the Netherlands, in the Westland, where you can go and meet and even work. But as said before, it is based upon a network. So depending on what you're going to work on, they will make combinations with the best suitable partners or venues to do that. When it comes to the technology side, as you just heard the introduction, also to get access to these tools that you also read about, it has 2 different frequencies, as said before. So many of the tools that are in there from Brno University of Technology and Leuven AI are probably very remotely accessible or usable even, and it could be different for the ones at Menlo University, the biotech tools. So if you're building a proposal aimed at that, same as Monica said with traveling, please keep an eye on the budget and take into account that it might require that you also spend some time at their venue. So all in that, when it comes together, you will be facing, after having applied successfully and having been selected as one of the 10 candidates, a project of 9 months led by you as an artist and supported in as many ways as we can by a sort of core team consisting in the first instance of the host studio, most directly, added on by a technology and knowledge expert from one of the universities, and an art-driven innovation mentor from either InfoArt, Gluon, or even partly State. Now, the expected outcomes, I think you've also read this in the documents, are in 3 layers. So we hope that the outcomes are, of course, interesting artistically. But we also hope that they are interesting in terms of prototypes. And with prototypes, that can mean many things. But in our instance, it means something that we could see how it could be built on, how it could develop into testing in a real use case after the project ends, or maybe even in the last phase of the project, although that will be very ambitious. What we also expect is that the outcomes of these first set of experiments, so the first open call, are going to be as open as possible for the artists to further work on after the project ends, but also for us as a consortium to see if we can find combinations with existing companies or institutes in the field that we may approach later on to do testing, follow-up testing. You can read a lot about that also in the documentation. And if you have any questions on that, please don't feel hesitant and ask them to us. Very briefly, a few examples on what this might be. So first, when we talk about a demonstrated prototype, I give you an example from a sister project of STARTS called Better Factory, project that just concluded. And in just a few lines, there's a lot on this to find online if you are interested. This was a project about trying to translate traditional crafts like weaving into an algorithm for 3D robotic printing. So they came up with this idea to do this. They developed the algorithm, And they tested the algorithm in many iterations, both for artistic outcomes as well as applied outcomes within the framework of the residency. So by the end of this time, we could say that we have a demonstrated prototype. The algorithm was not only conceived and developed, but also tested in the designated environment, in this case, a 3D printing manufacturer. So keep that in mind. It can mean many other things as well, but that is one example of what we mean with a demonstrated prototype. Developing your idea, but also testing it within the framework of the experiment. A second example for a testable digital component is another example from the same program, Better Factory, a project that involved Frederik de Wilde, and I think is even here today. So I hope I'm saying the right things, Frederik. What Frederik did in this project, together with a Parma ham producer, was conceive the idea of what he calls taste mapping, or even neural taste mapping. The idea that by putting on a headset, you can get very, very insightful ideas about how tasting a piece of ham actually works in your brain and translating it into all kinds of outcomes. Data outcomes, hopefully in the future usable for the company itself or other companies, but also much more visually aesthetical outcomes that could evolve into works of art. Now, this algorithm is so difficult to develop that within the framework of the experiment, it was conceived, it was prepared, and it was developed. But the transition towards using it within the context it was designed for has to happen after the project has concluded. That is perfectly fine here as well, depending, of course, of the complexities and what you run into, that is an end result. And finally, to say a couple of things about the artistic work in progress, we put that because we don't expect you to make a complete artistic work fully finalized within this 9 months as well. But we do hope that we will be able to showcase the outcomes on very nice stages during the second half of the project or even after the project. So when conceiving the project, it is about building, it is about testing, it is about demonstrating, but it's also about thinking how this could be presented as a work of art or as an installation of art in a more museal context, for instance, or an exhibition context. Well, here you see one example, Grow Your Own Cloud. This was a residency within the Repairing the Present STARTS Residencies framework. And they worked with a company called Witteveen and Bos, amongst others, on a scenario for DNA data storage in trees and in plants. A lot of research, a lot of testing, but in the end, also a presentation, in this case, the ZVM Museum in Karlsruhe. So I hope that gives a little bit of a first glance about what kind of outcomes we are aiming for, what kind of level we are aiming for. As said before, it's an experiment. Failing is also a success in many cases. Not doing it may not be a success, but failing can be a success. We don't know how far we can bring this, but we're in it for the highest possible end. Without saying too much more about that, here as well, please go to starts.eu and the other website if you're interested in figuring out how do these other residencies go and can I learn something from that. There's a lot of information available. And if you still have questions, come back to us if you want. Then we now go into the formalities for the open call. And I give the word to Anka.
Thank you, Rodolfo. So a lot has been already said. If you can move to the next slide, please. Okay, so for you to be able to access this great residency program that has been presented quite extensively so far, you would have to go through the application process, of course. So the first step is for you to make sure you are one of the eligible candidates that we are looking for. And to be more exact, we are looking for artists. You already got the idea that we want them to be interested in exploring the digital questions, utilizing a mix of technology and art. But from a legal perspective, if you want, we are looking for artists that are either running a business or not running a business. Or this meaning that you can be an individual artist and you can apply as an individual, as a physical person, or you can be self-employed as a freelancer, or you can even be part of a studio, as long as your proposal comes from a single person, a single entity. So when you are going to apply to this open call, you'll have to also demonstrate that you have produced several artworks, and this has to be uploaded, a minimum of 2 in your 2 artworks in your portfolio have to be uploaded in the application form, or you can add another extra 2 if you think they are relevant for the topic that we are suggesting here. In addition to that, you have to be legally established citizens or permanent residents in one of the eligible countries for the Horizon Europe program. As Rodolfo mentioned before, this project is financed by the European Commission, so only member states of the European Union and their countries and territories and Horizon Europe associated countries are eligible to submit an application. So when you are in the application form, you'll actually have a drop-down list where we have included all these countries. If the country you are a resident or you are established in a citizen of is not in that list, it's most likely you are not an eligible candidate. But if you have a specific situation, you can always get back to us by email or in the Spaces community and present your particular case, and we'll look into it. This is for the eligibility of the applicant, the artist that has to be able to present a proposal. It has also been mentioned so far what we are offering. So we are offering the 40,000 euros. You'll see that in the application form as well. It's the maximum amount we can grant, but it's the amount that we encourage you to aim for when you are building your budget. What is very important for you here is that this is a lump sum. 40,000 euros is a lump sum, and this means that you will not have to justify the way you are spending this 40,000 euros with invoices or other accountancy documents. You will be paid against milestones by delivering certain deliverables at a certain points throughout the 9 months residency. You are going to also be receiving the mentorship that has been presented so far, and in addition to that, you'll have access to the digital toolbox, to the Hungry EcoCities lab, and the Hungry EcoCities network. This will be another incentive for you to scale up the results of the project and to join a network, a very large network of studios and all the contacts of the partners in the project. Next slide, please. Okay, this is if you can play it. This is just a visual of how the Rodolfo, it has a play button if you go to it. No. Okay, so this is just for you to get acquainted to the application process. If you haven't signed for the Funding Box platform yet, you can create an account and then sign in. You'll start a new application here, and you will see all the fields that you need to fill in here. It looks like a lot, but basically it's not, because for basic information, you will just have to leave us your contact details, the person that we should be in contact with, and the person receiving all the communications from the project. Then for general entity information, as I've mentioned before, here we are looking for the data of your entity, whether it's an individual, a freelancer, or a studio. You'd have to fill in all these fields. Here you'll see the countries that you can select from. Very important here is that if you do not fill all the mandatory fields, you will not be able to save and continue. So you may want to input some text if you are going back to this section later in order to be able to save and continue, or you can just go back to application and you will fill in the next section. I think it should be, is it paused? Okay. it went a little slower than what I've presented, but basically it's what I've told you so far. So when it comes to your experience, we have this related experience of the artist section where you'll have to input the project that you find most relevant for the evaluation in this topic, in the Hungry EcoCities project. You have the option to add an extra 2 artworks if the 2 ones that are mandatory you feel that are not sufficient to reflect your expertise and your knowledge so far. These are optional, so if you fill in just the first 2 ones, you'll be able to move on to the next section. As well, here you'll be able to upload any information in another format that you would like to share with us, an image or a PDF file, whatever you find the most relevant, and your CV to reflect your experience up to this moment, up to the moment that you apply for the open call. Something that has not been said so far, the open call will be, the call for artists in Hungry EcoCities will be open until the 15th of May. That is the date of the deadline. Here it's the proposal itself where you'll have to select from the digital tools or suggest others if you do not find them in the list. And you'll have to upload a proposal written in your own words where you'll, it's a document, a 2-page document that you will have to upload there, and you can use images and other sketches. For the budget, something that has been mentioned, and it's very important, we'll get back to it a bit later. The declaration of honor is basically your self-declaration, which enables us to do the first eligibility check. So by answering all these questions with yes or no, we are able to determine if you are a suitable candidate to move on from the eligibility check to the other steps of the evaluation. Here is your consent for processing of personal data. You can read here what we are doing with the personal data that we collect from you. All proposals are confidential. Only consortium members will have access to your ideas at this stage. And the last section is just for statistical purposes. It will help us understand how you learned about us and be able to extrapolate this information and get back to other applicants in the future. You can export the application in PDF. You can also complete your application as a Word file. You can contact us at any point in Spaces and ask your questions. And please make sure that you submit the application. So once you have filled in all these sections, you are able to submit the application to us. So you can go back at any time to the microsite, to the open call microsite, and you will find here all the documentation you may need, like the guide for applicants, frequently asked questions, the 3 directions for experimentation document, where you will find more information about what has been said so far. You can always go back to your application, edit it, and submit when you feel it's ready. You can even edit it after you have submitted, as long as it is before the 15th of May at 5 o'clock Brussels time. So this is the application form for you. You'll receive an email that it was successfully submitted. And if it's still within the deadline, you can go back to editing it. I think, okay, I can go to the next slide now. Thank you. I was mentioning the budget earlier, and this is just a few more explanations on what has been already told. When we talk about personal costs in your situation, we are talking about your artist fees. So if you are on your own, you can evaluate, you can estimate your own costs for the 9 months residency program. Travel costs, very important, Monica and Rodolfo have been already on this. And you will also find it in the frequently asked questions for you to estimate how many travels you are supposed to be doing throughout the residency. And you can include here accommodation and flights or whatever other types of traveling you may be employing. And then you will have the category for consumables, equipment, and this is where you would evaluate and estimate a cost if you need some specific technology, some specific equipment in the execution of your idea. This goes also in subcontracting. If it's something major that you may need help with, like technological support, you can subcontract that. We do encourage to keep this to a decent limit. You will see it in the frequently asked questions, because it's your idea and your input that we want to validate throughout the residency. So subcontracting majorly will be a bit of a red flag for us. Overheads, this is something which is also known as indirect costs. You can either estimate them or not. It can be a maximum of 25% of the previous three, the artist fees, the travels, and the consumables that you may estimate here. So the requested amount should be around 40,000 euros, or even exactly 40,000 euros, not more than that. Next slide, please. We've already talked about the means for you to get in touch with us. So it's the information that you have available here. If you don't find an answer, you can always reach out through the spaces or the email address that has been communicated in the chat earlier as well. Next, please. Okay, for you to get an idea what this summer is going to look like. So we've launched on the 1st of March. The open call will be, the deadline for the open call is the 15th of May at 5 o'clock. Brussels time, we are having this webinar today. We're going to have another webinar on the 20th of April. What's very important here is that we are recording the webinar, and you can get back to it later if you need to. Once you have submitted the applications, we will start our evaluation process. So we are going to engage in several steps for the evaluation, but we do estimate that by the 20th of June, we will be able to have the results of the pre-selected artists. So the pre-selected artists, which are going to be 20 of them, will be invited to prepare and then participate in a jury days event to take place on the days of 10 and 11 of July. These are very important dates for you. So if you are one of the 20 pre-selected artists, you'll have to get some time to meet us online, first for the pitch preparation, and then to deliver the pitch on the 10th and 11th of July. Once we have went through the pitches on the 12th of July, we estimate to have the final results with the 10 selected artists, and they are everybody is going to receive a communication throughout the evaluation process, but the 10 selected artists will start the SGA preparation and signature. SGA stands for Sub-Grant Agreement, and this is the document, the binding document that the consortium of Hungry EcoCities will sign with the beneficiary, the 10 selected artists, where the 9 months residency conditions and timeline will be described. So the date for starting the 9-month residency is estimated right now for September 4th. We are going to announce any changes in this schedule, but for the time being, you just consider yourself one of the 20 pre-selected artists and write down the dates, block the dates in your calendar. Next slide, please, Rodolfo. So I mentioned the selection process, and I've already talked about the admissibility and eligibility check. That's why we have those many questions in the self-declaration part. Here we are going to do a very brief eligibility check to check your artist status, and then you will be entering the in and out of scope screening. This is done by the consortium partners, and they are going to see how much your proposal is within the lines of the scope of Hungry EcoCities. Those that have managed to go through these 2 stages will enter the independent individual evaluation with 2 external experts and 1 internal expert from the consortium. You are going to be announced about the status of your application after the in and out scope screening. The external evaluation will result in a list of applications above the threshold, and they are going to be analyzed in the consensus meeting by the Hungry EcoCities partners. And as mentioned, the 20 pre-selected ones will be invited to the jury day. So again, an email will be received by everybody, letting them know the status of their application. Once you have went through the jury date, and if you are one of the 10 pre-selected artists, you will enter this formal check where you will be asked by the Brunel University to provide some documentation to further check your status. And once this step is completed, you will be signing the agreement with the consortium in order to enter the 9 months residency. You'll have milestones review as mentioned, and you will be paid against completion of the deliverables at this milestones review. We foresee 3 payments throughout the 9 months residency. So there's going to be some money received right in the first months of the project for you to be able to sustain the cost of traveling and everything else you may need in the first stages of the project. So this is how we are going to evaluate and to look at your proposals. It is very important for you to have a good understanding of the process. So please go through the materials that are available and reach out to us whenever you feel that you have a specific situation to address. And we are going to answer your questions at the end of the session, which is now.
Thank you, Anka. Thank you. Especially in the last part, questions came pouring in. So we can go through them. Just for everybody to know, I know that the official time of this webinar was from 10 to 11. So if you have other obligations that you need to attend to, it's of course perfectly fine to log out. We will still be recording this so you can watch it back later if you have something else to do, but we'll just continue with answering the questions that we received until as long as it takes. So if you have the time, please stay with us and we will go through them. So the questions came in, a lot of them around, as said, the last part of the project. Let's go through them. The first question is from Frederik de Wilde. He asks if it's possible to pitch a few ideas to the team of consortium before applying. Well, the answer to this is not straightforward, Frederik. So, of course, it is perfectly possible to send an email to us saying, I'm thinking into this direction. Does it fit does it fit the direction I'm thinking about? Does it fit the topic that I'm thinking about? In that sense, of course, we can give a reaction, but we are not going to do an in-depth evaluation or assessment of project ideas before the deadline in this instance. There's going to be a second call of Hungry EcoCities next year. That call is going to be for teams of artists and companies, SMEs. There we do have that. There we do have content mentoring in the proposal building stage, but we don't have that now. So if the question is simply to be answered by yes or no, perfectly fine. If you want a review on the project idea, in this case, no, we're not going to do that on an individual basis. Then the second question is around collectives. Are collectives or artist duos eligible to apply? As Anka said, actually quite a couple of questions came around this. As Anka said, in principle, individuals are eligible to apply. And let me try to explain why that is. We are engaging in a contract with somebody who has is legitimate to sign that contract, so to say. That can either be an individual person or somebody representing a studio, the studio owner, for instance, the one able to sign. This does not mean you cannot apply as a duo or as a collective, but it does mean that if you are a duo or collective, you should appoint one person who basically is that person for us, who is the person we can sign the contract with, and also who is the person we can base the evaluation upon. Even if you submit previous projects that are made as a collective. It has to be clear that this person that is the official applicant has been involved in that project. And you may want to explain a little bit more how the roles are divided in those projects that you set forward, because we need to be able to do an assessment of an individual artist. So try to summarize this. Yes, it is possible to apply if you are part of a duo or a collective, but you cannot apply as a duo or as a collective. Select one person from your group who leads the application and who will also be our first point of contact later on. I hope that is clear, otherwise I'll see it in the chat. Coming back. Hello, I'm from Japan, now living and working in Germany with residential and working permits. Am I regarded as legally established? Anka, if somebody is not from the EU but is here on a residential and working permit, is that eligible?
Yes, a residential permit is eligible. Visa study is not. Just make sure it's a resident permit and it's not a visa study.
Yes, so a study visa. Study visa, no. Residential or working permit, yes. Doesn't matter from where on the globe you're from. If you have that in one of the eligible countries, it's perfectly fine.
I wanted to add something, sorry, Rodolfo, to the
yes.
questions, to the question before. Something that I forgot to mention is that you can submit up to 3 proposals, 1 per each residency theme, and only 1 will be finally granted. So you can submit 3 proposals, a maximum of 3 proposals, but you would be getting money only for 1 of them, the best one selected in the application, in the selection process.
Yes, thank you. That already answers the next question that we had. Can we create an idea combining more potential collaboration with the tech partners than 1? And can we apply for diverse directions of the residency, different applications, or should we apply for 1 direction, 1 artist? Well, this resonates with what you just explained, Anka. We want proposals that focus on 1 direction because we need to be able to make matches between your proposal and the hosting studio. What we said is, it may be the case that you're interested in collaborating with more than 1 of the studios, or that you have an idea that resonates with more than 1 of the directions. In that case, we say you are entitled to create up to 3 proposals, distinct proposals. So it's not okay to submit the same proposal for the different directions and just see where it falls best. Distinct proposals up to 3 because we have 3 possible directions.
But there is also the question on technical side, and of course you can combine different technologies from technological partners from universities.
Yes, correct, Pavel. So on the tech side, it's a different story. You can be interested in putting everything in there. It may not be reasonable to do so, but there you are free to make the combination you want. And later on, it means that when you are part of the final 20, so the jury day, in the pre-meeting, we will already start thinking about who will then be your main technical contact and who may also be involved from another university, if that's relevant. That doesn't necessarily need to remain only 1 university. Okay. I also see that Leah from InfoArt is also putting this in text in the chat box itself. So if something I'm saying or Anka or Pavel, anyone else is saying is still unclear, maybe the writing is clear. Artist duo, I think we had that. We discussed that. Another question, where can we get more detailed information about the tech toolbox and the tech partners? Now here we don't have a lot of very detailed information available now. The most detailed information we have is readable in the guide for applicants. There we go a bit further in saying what we mean with the different elements in the tech toolbox. But I would say, S+T+ARTS and also others, if you are specifically thinking about using any of these technologies or directions, and you have an idea about that, please inform us, and we can always send it to Pavel from Brno University of Technology, or Pavel van Mendel, or Robin from Leuven AI, and they can assess whether that is something that they actually have knowledge or expertise on. So I would do it like this. The information that's there for everybody is what's in the guide for applicants, plus what you saw in the other parts. If you have specific needs or questions around this, just ask them to us, and we will give you specific answers. Then the next question around subcontracting. Could you please clarify the point of subcontracting as a red flag? Does this mean it's discouraged? Should offers be included if subcontracting is in the budget, for instance, for a studio manager or programmer? Anka, do you want to say a bit more about that? Because you mentioned the red flag, which is true.
Yes, subcontracting, you'll see in the frequently asked questions document as well, is limited to up to 20% of your total budget of the proposal. And this happens because, as I mentioned, it is possible for you to subcontract a program or a part of the technology, support with the technology that you would like to blend in your artistic vision. But we do not encourage this to become the main part of your proposal, okay? It's your idea, it's your input, it's your participation that has to shine in the proposal and not the contribution of a subcontractor. Okay, so it's not mandatory to subcontract, it's not forbidden to subcontract. Just make sure you limit it to 20% of your estimated budget, and you describe it correctly in your proposal so that we understand the need for that subcontracting and how it's going to enhance your proposal. Okay, it's a red flag if it's more than 20%. That's what I meant by a red flag.
Yes, and a red flag means it's not automatically going to be dismissed, but it may lead that we start asking some questions. Because exactly for this reason, we want the artists who apply to be capable of executing the majority of the project themselves or yourself. Of course, we totally understand that there may be elements that you don't have the expertise on required, and that could require the assistance of a third party, so subcontracting. But if that becomes a majority of the project, that could also mean that you become a project manager and somebody else becomes the project executor, and that's not what we are looking for. So please stay close to your own capacities and capabilities, and then everything will be okay. In this question, Ahmed Hasib also mentions a studio manager or something else. I think it's good to say a few words about that. So if you have a studio with people working in your studio, that is not subcontracting. That's part of your personnel cost, if you ask other people in your studio to work on that as well. Also, costs like the rent of your studio, which are perfectly eligible to put on the budget, even though you are not going to be checked against it, they are not subcontracting. That's part of your overhead, your indirect cost. The subcontracting is only people, mainly, that you need to sign a contract with to hire them to execute a part of the project. That is the only thing we're meaning with this.
There was the question on non-digitally oriented. We already answered, but it was up.
Okay, we missed one.
Yes.
Yeah, sorry about that. Yes, Leora started answering. Concerning the application and portfolio, I am an active conceptual project-based artist, but my portfolio is not digitally oriented. Does this make me not eligible? Well, Leah already answered. It does not make you not eligible. So we're not. You don't have to be a digital artist to be eligible to apply. But this project will have a heavy digital and technological component. So please think with yourself, also with regard to what we just said. Can you develop a proposal that does resonate with this digital character of the program without the need to hire third parties for the majority of the execution? If you fit within that, it's perfectly eligible to apply. Pavel, you want to add something to that, or is that okay? So, okay. Then, a final question here. Will the jury include experts in contemporary art which can understand the references to current issues in art, in addition to the tech, food, industry, etc.? That's a very good question, actually, quite an in-depth question. As Anka previously explained, we're going to do the evaluation in stages, and the jury will be members from the consortium. So the only jury members we'll have making the final decision are people that you have been introduced to today, that you've heard today. So they come from, well, the artistic creative side, studios, the technical side, the universities, and more the side of experimentation and innovation, info art and Gluon. They will sit in the jury. But in an earlier stage of evaluation, we are going to ask individual experts to assess all the proposals and to basically pre-select the most suitable process for entering the jury day. That group will not be us. They will be external experts who are going to ask based on their expertise. So indeed, there we are currently in the process of combining a list with different backgrounds and different levels of expertise to have a as distributed way of looking at these proposals as possible. So indeed, we're also looking at people from contemporary arts, we're looking at people from science, we're looking at people from industry, and even people from philosophy and other backgrounds to take part in that group. I hope that answers your question. Those were the questions that we had on the platform, on the chat now. I would like to give the opportunity for anybody who still has a question remaining to now raise their hand and take the floor to ask it directly. If you couldn't put it on the chat or it just popped up, let's take some time for that. And in the meantime, I am going to thank everybody for attending today, for being here. Yes, here it comes. Christina, please unmute yourself.
Hello, and thank you for all this meeting today. It's really helpful. Actually, I want to ask one more last question. I have a question that is focused on this. If I'm an artist, that I am actually transmedia artist working with different means, and I have a little expertise in new media, but I have implemented sometimes of my own AI technology or other tools like AR and etc. to create environments and express a view via diverse media. Can I propose something and say that maybe some of the partners, of the tech partners of this residency could help me? Can I mention this instead of mentioning subcontracting or paying other people, to mention how the tech partners could help me bring my vision in life and our vision in a way, because we're going to collaborate.
Yes, thank you for this question, Christina. The answer is, in principle, yes. So the technology partners that we have in the consortium are here to support in the best way they can. I must say a but there. So it is not the role of the tech experts and tech mentors to execute the programming work or to execute the development work completely or mostly. So yes, they are there to help, they're there to support, they're there to also do certain things, but they're not there to replace a subcontracted programmer, if that's clear to say. You cannot just put it on their plate and say, perfect, then I don't need to subcontract somebody. And that is quite, that is a distinction you need to keep in mind. If you are developing a proposal and you have the question whether we have the relevant expertise in the consortium to think with you on that and to work with you on that, I think it's best to just come forward and ask that through email to us directly, preferably not in the last week, but some weeks before the deadline, so that we have some time, maybe even to set up a short meeting with one of the tech experts if it's very specific. I hope that answers your question, Christina. Is there anybody else? I don't see any other raised hands now. Yes, he says yes, thank you, great. Then I propose that we keep it at this. As said before, it's all recorded, so welcome to look it back, but we also remain here as physical people, so do come forward with your questions in the meantime. And don't wait to the last moment to start working on it, because the earlier you start thinking about this process, developing ideas and asking questions, the better also we can help you in that process. For now, I want to thank all the artists for attending and spending the time with us. I want to thank all the partners of Hungry